The Valorian Empire had ruled the stars. For 10,000 years, no species had ever defeated them, no world had ever resisted them for long, when their massive warships appeared in the sky. Above any planet, the people below would look up, feel fear in their hearts, and eventually kneel. Empress had conquered more than 300 worlds in her lifetime. She was ancient by the standards of her people, her blue-gray skin marked with the ritual scars of 1,000 victories. 4 cold eyes looked out from her angular face, and when she spoke, entire civilizations trembled. When her fleet arrived at the small blue planet called Earth, she expected another easy conquest. The humans were young. They had only been traveling in space for 200 years. Their ships were small and slow. Their weapons were primitive compared to Valorian technology. Her advisors told her the conquest would take 3 months at most. They were very, very wrong. The humans did not kneel. When the first invasion force landed, they fought back with everything they had. Soldiers with simple weapons stood against Valorian warriors in advanced armor. When those soldiers died, civilians picked up their guns and continued fighting. When cities were destroyed, survivors emerged from the rubble and kept resisting. Emperor sent more troops. The humans adapted, learning to strike from shadows, to disappear before counterattacks could find them. She sent more ships, more weapons, more soldiers. The humans learned to sabotage landing zones, to poison water supplies, to turn every street corner into a death trap. The war lasted 3 years. 60 million Valorian soldiers died before Earth was finally declared conquered. It was the bloodiest campaign in the history of the Empire. Even now, 5 years after the official end of the war, soldiers died every single day on this stubborn little world. Sir had come to Earth personally to oversee the occupation. She lived in a massive palace built on the ruins of what humans called Washington, once the capital of one of their most powerful nations. Palace was a fortress surrounded by shields and guards and every security measure Valorian science could create. And still she did not feel safe. On this particular evening, Sir walked through the long halls of her palace with her youngest daughter at her side, Princess Keith was barely an adult by Valorian standards, her 4 eyes still bright with the curiosity of youth. She had never seen real war. She had grown up in the comfortable heart of the Empire, surrounded by luxury and servants who bowed at her approach. Sir had brought her to Earth to teach her a lesson. Mother, Kyath said, watching a human servant press himself against the wall. As they passed, his head bowed so low, his forehead nearly touched his knees. Why do we need so many guards here? I counted 8 checkpoints just to reach this wing of the palace. Because this world requires them, Sir answered. But we have one, Kai said, confused. The war ended years ago. These humans are our servants now. They clean our floors and cook our food and bow when we walk past. What is there to fear? Sir stopped walking. Through a tall window she could see the human city spreading out. Below them, millions of humans live. They are going about their daily lives under the watchful eyes of Valorian patrol ships. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. Let me ask you a question, daughter, Sir said. Tonight when you go to sleep in your chambers, who protects you? Keith blinked, surprised by the strange question. The Imperial Guard, of course. Our soldiers stand watch at Every door, shields protect the palace. Sensors watch for any threat. I am safer here than anywhere in the Empire. Is that so? Sir's voice was soft, almost gentle. Come with me. I want to show you something. She led Kai deeper into the palace through corridors the princess had never seen before. They'd passed through security checkpoints where a guard scanned them with devices and checked their identities twice, 3 times, 4 times. Key. Not even in the imperial palace back home. Finally they reached a small room with a window that looked down into a courtyard garden. The garden was beautiful in the human style, filled with colorful flowers and small trees, and a fountain that made soft splashing sounds. A single figure sat on a stone bench below, reading a book in the fading light. It was a human girl, young, perhaps the same age as KTH herself. She wore the simple gray uniform of palace servants. Her dark hair was pulled back from her face, and her expression was peaceful, almost content. That human is called Molly, Sira said quietly. She works in the palace kitchens. She has been here for 2 years. A kitchen servant. Kai frowned. Why are we watching a kitchen servant? Because 3 months ago one of my most trusted generals died in this palace. Sir Snort's 4 eyes never left the girl below. Lord VTH was found in his chambers, dead from a poison made from plants that grow only on this world, a poison our medical scanners could not detect until it was far too late. Keith felt a chill run through her. He was murdered. By who? We do not know. Officially, we do not know, sir. Gestured at the girl in the garden. Lord VTH was the commander who ordered the destruction of a human city called Denver. He gave the order to fire on civilian shelters. 40,000 humans died in a single night. Men, women, children. Entire families were erased. She paused, letting the words sink in. Molly's parents lived in Denver. Her 2 younger brothers lived there. Her grandparents, her cousins, her childhood friends. Everyone she had ever loved died because of Lord VTH's order. Kai stared at the girl below. Molly turned a page in her book, seemingly without a care in the world. You think she killed him? I know she killed him. Sir's voice was cold and certain. I have the finest intelligence officers in the Empire. They spent 2 months investigating. They found nothing. No evidence, no witnesses, no mistakes. A 17-year-old human girl with no training, no weapons, no all eyes, walked into a guarded palace, killed one of my generals, and walked away without leaving a single trace. Molly looked up from her book. For just a moment her eyes met Sir through the window. There was no fear in that gaze, no guilt, no submission, only patience, only waiting. That, my daughter, is why we need so many guards, Sira said softly. That is why I brought you to this world, because you need to understand what kind of species we are dealing with. They smile at us, they serve us food and clean our floors and bow when we pass, and every single one of them is waiting for their chance to strike. Kath could not look away from the human girl below. Molly had returned to her book now, peaceful as a summer morning. What do we do? Keith whispered. That, Sir replied, is the question I have been asking myself for 5 years. The next morning, Princess Keith could not stop thinking about the girl in the garden. She had dreamed of Molly's calm eyes, of that patient, waiting expression. When she woke, she found herself checking the shadows of her room, wondering if some human servant had crept in while she slept. Her breakfast tasted strange to her now. Human had prepared it, a human had carried it to her chambers, a human had smiled and bowed and wished her a pleasant morning. Kai ate slowly, wondering if every bite might be her last. Empress came to her daughter's chambers at midday. She looked tired, the lines around her eyes deeper than usual. In her hands she carried a data tablet filled with reports. You did not sleep well, sir observed. It was not a question. I kept thinking about that girl Molly. KTH pushed away her half-eaten meal. How can she just walk free if you know she killed Lord VTH? Why have you not arrested her, executed her? On what grounds, sir? It down across from her daughter. We have no evidence. If I execute every human I suspect of wanting to kill us, I would have to execute every human on this planet, all 8 billion of them, then watch her more closely, put guards on her at all times. We do. We watch her every moment of every day. We scan her food, her quarters, her clothing. We monitor every word she speaks. Sir shook her head. Slowly, it changes nothing. She knows we are watching. She does not care. She simply waits, patient as stone, for her next opportunity. KTH felt frustration rising in her chest. This is madness. We are the Valoran Empire. We have conquered 300 worlds. How can one human girl cause us so much trouble? That is exactly what I want you to understand. Sir stood and walked to the window. Below, the human city stretched out under a gray sky. Millions of humans moved through the streets, going to work, buying food, living their small lives. One girl is a problem, but there are not one girl. There are billions of them, and every single one of them remembers what we did. She turned back to face Kai. Come, I want you to meet someone. They traveled by armored transport to a military base on the edge of the city. The base was massive, home to 50,000 Valoran soldiers. Guard towers stood at every corner. Patrol ships flew constant circles overhead. Shields shimmered in the air, protecting against any attack. General Tarvek met them at the command center. He was an old soldier, scarred from 100 battles, but Kath noticed something strange in his eyes. It took her a moment to recognize it. Fear. Your Majesty, Your Highness. He bowed low. Welcome to Ford Base 7. Tell my daughter about the current situation, sir. Commanded. Tell her everything. Torvak's jaw tightened, but he nodded. He led them to a large holographic display that showed the entire planet. Red dots flickered across every continent. Hundreds of them, thousands of them. Each red dot represents an incident in the past month, Torv explained. Attacks on our forces, sabotage of our equipment, assassinations of our officers. He zoomed in on one region. Here, in what the humans call the Rocky Mountains, we lost an entire patrol, 30 soldiers. They simply vanished. We found their bodies 2 weeks later, buried. The snow ambush keeked. No signs of battle, no weapons fire, no struggle. Torvak's voice was grim. They were poisoned, something in their food. Their water, we still do not know. They died in their sleep, quiet as children. He moved to another region. Here in the territory called Texas, humans attacked the supply convoy. They used explosives hidden in the road. 20 vehicles destroyed, 100 soldiers killed. We sent a response team. They were ambushed. Another 50 dead. And the attackers, dawn, disappeared into the population like water into sand. Torvik shook his Head, that is the problem, Your Highness, we cannot tell which humans are enemies. They all look the same. They all smile the same way. The man who serves you dinner might plant a bomb under your bed that night. The woman who cleans your office might be memorizing your security codes. KTH turned to her. Mother, how many soldiers do we have on this planet? 40 million, sir answered quietly. The largest occupation force in the history of our empire. On most conquered worlds, we need only a few thousand troops to maintain order. Here, we need millions, and it is still not enough. We lose soldiers every day. Torvik added, not in great battles, but in small ways. A knife in the dark, poison in the food, a vehicle with cut breaks, a bomb in a supply room, death by 1,000 small cuts. He pulled up another display. This one showed a list of names, thousands of them scrolling endlessly. These are Valorant soldiers who have died on Earth since the war officially ended, not in battle, not in any attack we could respond to, just dead, killed by humans who smiled at them one moment and struck the next. Kai stared at the scrolling names. Each one was a soldier. Each one had family back in the Empire. Each one had died on this strange blue world, killed by an enemy they never saw coming. The worst part, Torvik said quietly, is the waiting. My soldiers cannot relax. They cannot trust anyone. They sleep in shifts, watching each other's backs. They check their food 10 times before eating. They look over their shoulders constantly. The stress is breaking them. We have more soldiers asking to be sent home than ever before. They would rather face any other enemy than spend another day on Earth, because any other enemy fights like an enemy, sir explained. They attack openly. They can be found and destroyed, but humans do not fight that way. They smile and serve and wait. They make you paranoid. They make you afraid of shadows. They make you jump at every sound. She placed a hand on Keith's shoulder. This is what I wanted you to see, daughter. This is why I asked you that question. Who protects you through the night? Our guards try, our shields try, our sensors and weapons, and millions of soldiers try, but against an enemy who hides in plain sight, who wears the face of a servant, who has infinite patience and absolutely no fear of death. All our protection means nothing. Keith looked at the holographic map, at the countless red dots covering the planet like a disease. They are everywhere, she whispered. Yes, sir. Agreed, and they will never stop. The morning after the attack was chaos. Alarms rang through every corridor of the palace. Soldiers ran through the halls with weapons ready. Officers shouted orders. Servants were rounded up by the dozens and dragged away for questioning. Kai watched it all from the safety of her mother's chambers, where she had been taken before dawn. She had told the guards about Danny, about their conversation, about everything he had said. Now teams of investigators were searching her room, looking for any trace of the human who had walked through their security. Like it was nothing. They would find nothing. Keith already knew this. Danny had been too calm, too confident. He had done this before. Empress arrived at midday, her 4 eyes burning with cold anger. She dismissed the guards and sat down across from her daughter. Tell me again, she commanded. Everything. He said every word. KTH told the story again for the 5th time that day. When she finished, Sir was silent for a long moment. He spoke the truth. Sir finally said every word of it. We have known for years that the humans have infiltrated every level of our operation. We cannot function without them. They maintain our equipment. They prepare our food. They clean our quarters. We are surrounded by enemies who wear the faces of servants. Then why do we not bring Valorants to do those jobs? We have tried. It is not enough. Sir stood and walked to the window. City below looked peaceful, as if nothing had happened. Earth is 8 billion humans. We have 40 million soldiers here, and we still cannot control them all. If we tried to replace every human worker with a Valorant, we would need 1 billion of our own people. We do not have 1 billion people to spare, so we are trapped. Yes, Sir's voice was bitter. We are trapped in a war we cannot win, on a world we cannot leave, surrounded by enemies we cannot see. The door opened, and General Torvak entered. He looked even worse than the last time KTH had seen him. His uniform was wrinkled, his eyes were red, and his hands shook slightly. Your Majesty, we have completed the initial investigation, and 37 dead. I Counselor Meth, Admiral Dreth, governors from 5 territories, intelligence officers, security commanders. Torvak's voice was hollow. They were all killed in the same way, poison administered while they slept. We found no sign of forced entry in any of their quarters, no security alarms were triggered. The killers walked in and out like ghosts. How? Keith demanded. How is that possible? Torvik turned to her, and she saw something in his eyes she had never expected to see in a Valorian general. Dodd defeat, because they had helped your Highness. Every single victim had human servants, cleaners, cooks, aides, people who had access to their quarters, who knew their schedules, who had been serving them faithfully for years. He shook his head. We trusted them. We had no choice but to trust them, and they waited patient as stone for the moment to strike. Have you arrested them? The servants, they are gone, vanished into the city. We are searching. But Torvik spread his hands helplessly. There are millions of humans in this city. They all look alike to our senses. They hide each other, protect each other. It is like searching for a single drop of water in an ocean. Sir turned from the window. What is the mood among the troops? Bad, Your Majesty, very bad. Torvak's voice dropped. Word has spread about what happened. Our soldiers are terrified. They are refusing to eat food prepared by humans. They are sleeping in shifts, weapons in hand. Some units have started executing human workers without trial, just out of fear. Stop them. We cannot afford random executions. It will only create more enemies. With respect to Your Majesty, we cannot afford anything. Torvik stepped closer. I have commanded armies for 200 years. I have fought in wars across the galaxy. But I have never faced an enemy like this. They do not fight like soldiers. They do not think like soldiers. They are everywhere and nowhere. They strike without warning and disappear without trace. He paused as if gathering courage for what he was about to say. Your Majesty, I believe we need to consider withdrawal. The word hung in the air like a death sentence. Kath saw her mother's 4 eyes narrow. Withdrawal. The Valoran Empire does not withdraw. The Valoran Empire has never faced humans before. Torvik met her gaze steadily. In 5 years of occupation, we have lost more soldiers than in the entire conquest of the 30 worlds. Our troops are broken. Our officers are being killed in their beds. Our security systems have been compromised beyond Repair if we leave every conquered. Species in the Empire will see it. Rebellions will spread. If we stay, we will eventually run out of soldiers. Torvek's voice was quiet but firm. We lose 100 soldiers a day on this world. In a year, that is 36,000. In 10 years, 300,000. And the humans are patient. They will wait 10 years. They will wait 100 years. They will wait forever, sir. Turned away from him for a long moment. She stared out at the human city below. Keith watched her mother's face, seeing something she had never seen before. Doubt leave us, sir, finally said I. Need to think. Torvik bowed and left the room. Kai stood and walked to her. Mother sighed. Mother, what are you going to do? I do not know, sir's voice was barely a whisper. I have ruled for 1,000 years. I have conquered worlds, built empire, destroyed civilizations. But this world, she shook her head, this world breaks every rule I know. The human who came to my room, Danny, he said something that has stayed with me. What did he say? Keith thought back to that dark room, to Danny and LT Unk and GT, wise, calm voice and steady eyes. He said their grandchildren will still be planting bombs under our beds 100 red years from now. He said they will never stop, not because they think they can win, but because resistance is who they are. Kath paused. Mother, I believed him. I looked into his eyes and I knew he was telling the truth. Sir closed her 4 eyes. So did I when I looked into the eyes of the girl in the garden, Molly. She was not afraid. She was not angry. She was simply waiting with absolute certainty that her time would come. What do we do? Sir was silent for a very long time. Outside, the sun was setting over the human city, painting the sky in shades of red and gold. I need to speak with the council, she finally said, and I need you to do something for me. Anything. I want you to go back to the garden. I want you to find Molly and talk to her, not as a conqueror speaking to a servant, as one person speaking to another. Sir's voice was tired, so tired. I want to understand them, Keith. I have studied them for 5 years, and I still do not understand how they think. Perhaps you can learn what I could not. Keith nodded slowly. I will try. Be careful. Trust nothing. Assume she knows exactly who you are and exactly why you are there. Sir placed a hand on her daughter's shoulder. And remember what I asked you. Who protects you through the night? No one, Keith answered softly. No one protects me. Now you are beginning to understand. 3 days passed after Kath's visit to the military base. She found herself watching every human she encountered with new eyes. The servant who brought her morning water, was he memorizing her schedule? The old woman who cleaned the palace halls, was she counting the guards at each door? The young man who tended the gardens, was he looking for weak points in the walls? She stopped eating food prepared by human hands. She had Valoran soldiers bring her sealed rations from the military base. She checked her room 3 times before sleeping. She kept a small weapon under her pillow, though she had never fired one in her life. On the 4th day, Empress summoned her to a small meeting room deep in the palace. Several high-ranking officers were already there, along with a Valoran intelligence commander named Sebeth. They all looked worried. Something is wrong, sir, announced without greeting. Human activity has decreased across the entire planet. Resistance attacks have dropped to almost 0. The markets are quiet. The streets are calm. Is that not good news? Keith asked, confused. No. Seventh voice was sharp. When humans go quiet, it means they are planning something. The larger the silence, the larger the storm that follows. We have increased patrols, one of the generals said, doubled security at all major installations, locked down travel between regions. It will not be enough. Sir stared at a map of the planet. 5 years on this world has taught me one thing: we cannot predict what humans will do. We can only react. After they strike, the meeting continued for hours, but no one had any real answers. Eventually, the officers were dismissed, leaving only Sir and Kai. The room. Mother, can I ask you something? Of course. Why do we stay here? Kai spread her hands, gesturing at the walls around them. This world is nothing but trouble. We have lost more soldiers here than in any other conquest. Our people live in fear. Our officers are being killed in their beds. Why not simply leave? Let the humans have their planet back. Sir was silent for a long moment. Because we have never left a conquered world. Because our empire is built on the idea that resistance is useless. If we abandon Earth, every other conquered species will see that resistance works. Rebellions will spread across all our territories. The empire will crumble. But at what cost? How many more of our people must die? I do not know. Sir's voice was heavy with exhaustion. I truly do not know. That night Keth went to bed early. She was tired from days of poor sleep and constant worry. 2 guards stood outside her door. Another 2 watched the window. Shields protected every entrance. She was in theory perfectly safe. She closed her eyes and fell into an uneasy sleep. The darkness came without warning. One moment she was dreaming, the next she was awake, heart pounding, staring into complete blackness. Every light in her room had gone out. The soft hum of the shield generators had fallen silent. Keith scrambled for the weapon under her pillow, her hands shaking. Guards, she called out. Guards, no answer. She pressed herself against the headboard of her bed, weapon raised, eyes straining to see anything in the darkness. The silence was total and absolute. No alarms, no running footsteps, no sounds of battle, just nothing. Then she heard it, saw footsteps, barely a whisper coming from somewhere in her room. Please do not scream, said a voice in the darkness. It was a young voice, calm and steady. Human voice. I am not here to hurt you. Who are you? Keith's voice cracked. How did you get in here? A small light clicked on. A human stood near the window holding a dim flashlight. He was young, maybe 20 years old, with short brown hair and calm eyes. He wore simple, dark clothing. In his other hand he held something that looked like a weapon, but it was pointed at the floor, not at her. My name is Danny, he said. I am what your mother calls a resistance fighter. Tonight we are sending a message. The guards outside my door. What did you do to them? They are sleeping. A gas in the ventilation system. They will wake up in a few hours with headaches and no memory of tonight. Danny moved to the window, looking out at the city below. The power grid for this entire district is down. Your communication systems are dead. Half your soldiers are locked in there. Barracks with doors that will not open. Keith could not believe what she was hearing. That is impossible. The security systems, the shields, the sensors have human technicians working on them. Danny turned to face her. That is what your empire never understood about us. You conquered our land, but you could not run it without our help. Every system in this palace, every piece of technology, every door and shield and sensor has been maintained by human hands for 5 years. Did you really think we were not paying attention? Why are you here? Why are you telling me this? Danny was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was softer. Your mother asked you a question a few days ago about who protects you through the night. I heard about it. Word travels fast among us. You have spies in the palace. We have friends in the palace. People who bring us information. People who help us move without being seen. People who have been waiting for tonight for a very long time. Danny sat down on a chair near the window, keeping his distance from her. I wanted to answer your mother's question myself. Neth kept her weapon raised, but her arms were getting tired. What is the answer? Then no one. Dai's voice was simple and clear. No one protects you through the night. Not your guards, not your shields, not your millions of soldiers. Because we are already inside. We have always been inside. Every time you eat a meal, a human touched it. Every time you sleep in a bed, a human made it. Every time you walk through a door, a human built it. He leaned forward. Your empire thinks of us as servants, as defeated people, as animals who do not understand their place. But we are not animals. We are not defeated. We are just patient. We smile and bow and say the words you want to hear, and we wait. We wait for nights like tonight. What happens tonight? Tonight we prove that nowhere is safe. Tonight across the city, 37 of your high-ranking officials will die in their sleep, not in battle, not with any warning. They will simply close their eyes and never open them again. Danny stood up. And tomorrow you will look at every human servant and wonder which one of them is next. Key's blood ran cold. You are monsters. We are survivors. Dai's voice hardened. Your armies burned our cities. Your soldiers killed our families. Your generals ordered the death of millions of innocent people. And you call us monsters? He shook his head. We did not start this war. We did not ask to be conquered. We just refused to stay conquered. He moved toward the door. I'm leaving now. By the time the power comes back on, I will be gone. You can tell your mother about this conversation if you want. It will not change anything. She already knows the truth. She has known it for years. Wait. Keith's voice stopped him at the door. Why did you come to me? Why not kill me like the others? Danny paused. When he spoke, there was something almost like sadness in his voice. Because you are young, because you ask questions, because maybe, just maybe, you can understand something that the rest of your empire cannot understand. What? That you cannot win this, not with soldiers, not with weapons, not with fear. Danny looked back at her. You can kill millions of us, and we will keep fighting. You can burn our cities, and we will rebuild them. You can occupy our world for 100 years, and our grandchildren will still be planting bombs under your beds. Then what do you want? We want you to leave. Danny's voice was steady and sure. Go back to your empire. Tell your people that Earth is not worth the cost. Tell them that for every year you stay, more of your soldiers will die. Tell them that we will never ever stop. He opened the door. The hallway beyond was dark and silent. Goodbye, princess. I hope you make the right choice. Then he was gone. Keth sat in the darkness for a long time, her weapon still raised, her heart pounding in her chest. When the lights finally came back on an hour later, she was still sitting there staring at the door where the human had disappeared. 37 officials died that night, just as Danny had promised. Not a single resistance fighter was caught. Keith found Molly in the garden the next evening, sitting on the same stone bench reading the same book. The human girl looked up as Keith approached her, face calm and unreadable. "Your Highness." Molly stood and bowed, the perfect image of a loyal servant. "How may I serve you?" "Sit down." Keith gestured at the bench. "I want to talk to you, not as a princess, just as a person." Something flickered in Molly's eyes, surprise perhaps, or amusement. She sat back down, and after a moment Kef sat beside her. The garden was quiet. Evening light filtered through the leaves of the strange human trees. Somewhere in the distance, a bird was singing. It was almost peaceful. "You know who I am," Clear's throat Kayeth said, "and I think you know why I'm here. Your mother sent you." Molly's voice was soft, almost gentle. "She wants to understand us. She has wanted that for years." "Yes." Keith looked at the human girl, at her young face and calm eyes. "I know what you did. I know about Lord VTH, and I know about what happened 2 nights ago. Do you?" "A man named Danny came to my room. He told me things." He answered the question my mother asked me. Kath paused. "Who protects me through the night?" Molly nodded slowly. "And what is the answer?" "No one. No one can protect me from you. From any of you." Keith turned to face the human girl fully. "I am surrounded by millions of soldiers, and I am still not safe. That is what you wanted us to understand, is it not? That is part of it." Molly set down her book, "But not all of it." "Then tell me, help me understand. Why do you keep fighting? The war is over. You lost. Your armies are destroyed. Your governments are gone. Your cities are under our control. Why not accept defeat and move on?" Molly was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was distant, as if she was looking at something far away. "When I was a little girl, my grandmother used to tell me stories, old stories from before humans ever left Earth, stories about people who fought against impossible odds, who stood up to tyrants and empires and armies that outnumbered them 1,000 to 1. She turned to look at Kai. "In those stories, the heroes almost never won in their lifetimes. They fought knowing they would probably die. They fought knowing their children might die, and their grandchildren too. But they fought anyway, because some things are worth fighting for, even if you never see the victory." "What things?" "Freedom, dignity, the right to live your own life without bowing to masters who see you as less than them." Molly's voice hardened. "Your empire looks at us and sees servants, animals, resources to be used. But we are not animals. We are not resources. We are human beings, and we will never accept being slaves. Not in a year, not in a century, not ever." Keith shook her head. "But you cannot win. You must see that we have technology you cannot match, weapons you cannot fight, ships you cannot destroy. We do not need to destroy your ships." Molly smiled, a small sad smile. "We just need to make every day on this planet cost you more than it is worth. Every soldier who dies, every officer who is killed, every night your people spend afraid to close their eyes. That is a victory. Small victories, quiet victories, but they add up. That is not winning. That is just suffering for both sides, maybe, but suffering for a purpose is different from suffering for nothing." Molly picked up her book again, running her fingers over the cover. "My parents died. My Brothers died, everyone I loved died. If I just accept that and move on, then their deaths meant nothing. They were just numbers in your conquest records. Our voice grew stronger, but if I fight, if I make your empire pay for every life they took, then their deaths have meaning. They become part of something larger, a story that will continue long after I am gone. She looked at Keith with clear, unwavering eyes. That is what your mother does not understand. That is what your empire has never understood. We are not fighting to win. We are fighting because the fight itself is the victory. Kath sat in silence, trying to understand. On her home world, wars were simple. Two armies met in battle. One side won, one side lost. Losers accepted defeat and moved on with their lives. That was how it had always been, but humans did not think that way. They did not see defeat as the end. They saw it as the beginning of a different kind of war. What would it take for you to stop? Keith finally asked. What would we have to do? Leave. Molly's answer was immediate. Take your ships and your soldiers and your empire and go back to wherever you came from. Let us rebuild our world in peace. And if we do that, will you come after us, seek revenge for what we did? Molly laughed, a short, bitter sound. We do not want revenge. We want to be left alone. That is all we have ever wanted. She gestured at the sky above them where Valoran patrol ships hummed in endless circles. Before you came, we were reaching for the stars. We were building, creating, exploring. We were becoming something wonderful. Her voice softened. All we want is the chance to become that again. Without masters, without conquerors, without going to anyone but ourselves. Keith looked at the human girl. She thought about Dany, calm and fearless in the darkness of her room. She thought about General Tarvek, broken and exhausted after years of fighting an enemy he could not understand. She thought about her mother, the greatest conqueror in the Lorien history, who could not figure out how to control one stubborn little world. I will tell my mother what you said. She already knows. Molly opened her book. She has known from the beginning. The question is whether she will listen. Keith stood up. Why did you talk to me? Why tell me all this? Are you not afraid I will have you arrested? You could. Molly did not look up from her book. It would not matter. There are millions like me, billions. Arrest us all and our children will take our place. Kill us all and you will have no one left to run your power plants and grow your food. She turned a page. Besides, you are young. Maybe you can understand things your mother cannot. Maybe you can see that this war has no end, not unless someone chooses to stop fighting. She finally looked up at Keith. Your soldiers have to win every night. We only have to win once. Keith walked away from the garden, her mind spinning. When she reached her mother's chambers, she found siring at the window, watching the sunset. Well, sir asked, what did you learn? Kath took a deep breath. I learned that we cannot win this war, not the way we have been fighting it, not with any number of soldiers or weapons or security measures. Then what do? We leave. Keith said the words she never thought she would say. We take our people and our ships and we go home. We leave Earth to the humans and never come back. Sir was silent for a very long time. The Empire will never accept that, she finally said. Then the Empire will bleed to death here, one soldier at a time for the rest of eternity. KTH walked to her mother's side. You ask me who protects me through the night. Now I know the answer. No one can protect us, not from The only way to be safe is to stop being their enemy. Sir closed her 4 eyes. She stood there for a long moment, the last light of the sun washing over her ancient face. You sound like a human, she said quietly. Maybe that is what it takes to understand them. 1 year later, the Valoran Empire announced its withdrawal from Earth. They called it a strategic decision, a reallocation of resources. Everyone knew the truth. The humans had not defeated them in battle. They had simply made victory too expensive to maintain. They had waited and watched and struck from shadows until the greatest empire in the galaxy decided it was not worth the cost. On the day the last Valoran ships left orbit, Molly walked out of the palace for the final time. She looked up at the sky, clear and blue for the first time in years, and smiled. Somewhere across the ocean, the ruins of a city called Denver. Small monument stood among the rubble. It listed the names of 40,000 people who had died on a single terrible night. Among them were the names of Molly's parents and brothers. She would visit that monument someday. She would stand before those names and tell them that their deaths had not been in vain, that their sacrifice had been part of something larger, that their daughter, their sister, had been one of the millions who refused to give up. Humans had answered the Empress's question in the only way they knew how. Who protects you through the night? No one could protect the conquerors from a people who refused to be conquered. The night itself belonged to humanity, and it always would. The stars were open again, and this time when humans reached for them, they would bow to no one.